Social media infographics are shaping our political discourse. It's now trendy to despise patriotism and cancel those who think differently than us. President Ronald Reagan once said that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction, and we need to take that to heart. So tune in each Friday to the Young Not Stupid interview series to be prepared in the fight for the values that make America exceptional. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Young Not Stupid interview series powered by the Western Journal. Today I have on Blake Masters. He is the Chief Operating Officer of Thiel Capital, President of the Thiel Foundation, and most importantly to you guys, especially to our audience right here in Arizona, he is a Republican Senate candidate in the upcoming Senate primary here in the state. So Masters has branded himself as a political outsider, particularly running on populist conservative ideals. He's gained a lot of traction within the Republican spheres and is starting to make a name for himself not only in the business world, which he's already been well established in, but also in the political circles as well. So I was wondering if you could introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about your background in the business world and what made you make the transition into politics.
Yeah, I've been doing the startup thing for a number of years. You know, I was fortunate enough to link up with Peter Thiel in law school. He came and taught a class that I did well in, and he became my mentor. And but then mostly what we do is we invest in startups, right? We identify really talented founders working on a hard problem. Maybe it's in software. Increasingly, it's in hardware and biotech, and we give these companies capital and try to help them grow. And hopefully, the world gets new technology and we make a lot of money. But, Peter's always been very political. I've always been very political, conservative, sort of a libertarian bent, increasingly just conservative. As I've sort of done well in business, I've also looked around and, I moved back to my home state of Arizona a few years ago. I had this front row seat to watching us lose 2 Senate seats, right? These Senate seats were ruby red when I was a kid. And all of a sudden, Arizona's got 2 Democrat senators, right? You look around nationally, it feels to me like we're losing the country. So I feel like it's just worth it to pause my business career to go and win this Senate seat and actually provide real leadership and try to get this country back on track.
One thing I wanted to ask you about was what are certain economic changes you would like to see here in Arizona, here in the U.S. that would make it, at least in your view, more centric and more beneficial to those of us here in the United States, especially people that are in the middle or the working class?
I do think the litmus test for any economic policy is, does this improve the lives for middle-class Americans, for working class and middle-class people? Is this actually good for America, right? The GOP just focuses on GDP, right? It's just, if it's good for business, if it's good for big business, if it's good for the bottom line, it must be good. And that's not true. If a handful of multinational corporations are doing well, but to get that progress, you have to sacrifice your middle class and ship everybody's job overseas, to Southeast Asia. Maybe that's not so good for the country. So it's not just GDP is important, but it's not just about GDP. In this country, I think we need to do 2 things, right? To make it easier for people to form families and have families and raise families. You've got to pursue policies that increase wages, right? People need to make more money. And then you have to pursue policies that cut costs. I think there's a lot of creative solutions to get in there, sort of break this stuff up, make it more dynamic, and make it possible again to raise a family on one single income in this country.
So do you support a minimum wage increase? And if so, what dollar amount would you support that at?
I think the minimum wage increase is the worst way to increase wages. It's literally more like a childlike view of things. Like, oh, you want people to make more money? Just mandate it by fiat. Every time a left-winger wants to, they're trying to make the minimum wage $15 an hour in Tucson, which sounds good. It sounds reasonable. It's only a little bit higher than what it is now. But I just say, well, why not make it 50? Why not just make it $100 an hour? What would happen? Well, a whole lot of jobs where the employer is looking for productive help, right? That has a market price. The better way to do it is to reduce immigration, right? Illegal immigration, horrible for working class wages. Even some legal immigration programs like the H-1B visa system, I think is basically abused by huge corporations, right? Of course, would rather pay legions of coders from India to come and do, software programming jobs for cheaper, for less money, right? So I think there's an immigration component. There's a onshoring and reindustrialization component. We took all this productive industrial capacity over the past few decades and we shipped it off to Asia. And turns out that's bad for the people who lost jobs. There's also like national security implications to not being able to make computer chips here in your own country. We got to incentivize those companies to come back, and we got to be making stuff here in America again. That'll be good for the people who get those high wage, high skill manufacturing jobs. It'll be good for the infrastructure that gets developed around those. So you got to make things in America, and you got to make sure that American jobs go to Americans. You do those two things. It maybe not doesn't solve everything, but it goes a long way. Big steps in the right direction.
What legislation would you be pushing for in the United States Senate to incentivize companies to stay here in the U.S. outside of, you touched on the visas a little bit. What other actions would you be pushing in the Senate?
Well, I think that the low-hanging fruit is even to repatriate a lot of the ones that have left, right? There's a lot of capital abroad, U.S. or multinational, but U.S.-based companies that we ought to bring back home. And so if there's like a tax holiday package to put together to incentivize that stuff to come home, I think we should be doing that. Like, I don't think it should just be costless to go and move your factory to Mexico to sort of exploit a geographic, geopolitical wage disparity. Like, that's not good for the middle-class Americans who lose their jobs. I like trade, right? I like laissez-faire as far as it goes, like in your own borders. But I think when you have huge sort of labor wage arbitrage opportunities, just ship your whole factory to Vietnam for pennies on the dollar, somehow that doesn't work out well in the aggregate for the United States or for the median American worker. So we got to have an eye on that.
In your capacity, if you are elected as a senator, who would you work with, and what kind of legislation would you be pushing on the federal level to help better secure our border?
Remain in Mexico, which I guess the Biden administration has reluctantly had to re-implement, that works. But if you actually finish the wall, if you double or triple the size of Border Patrol, and if you actually get those Border Patrol agents the resources they need, this would work. It's just that simple. It's not even an innovative solution, right? Come 2023, when I get in office, unfortunately, we'll still have a Democratic president, but come 2024, we elect a strong Republican again. And I think there's going to be a lot of political will, actually, when we actually have power again to finish the wall and actually shut down that border and know who's coming across.
What policies would you advocate for in the Senate, or perhaps just use your power as a person, as a member of the public, and would have influence to some degree in Arizona politics to make sure that Arizona just doesn't become another California?
We welcome Californian refugees to Arizona. You are absolutely welcome if you remember why you left. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think a lot of people do. I meet a lot of them, and man, they were conservative in California, but they felt like this embattled minority there, and they come here and they're just so glad to live in what I still think is a red state. And I'll probably get redder in future years. But I do meet a lot of Californians who come here, and you're like, hey, why'd you leave? And they say, because the taxes were crazy, because homeless encampments, were increasing and encroaching on my house. And, I find drug needles in the street. And then I say, okay, great. So are you active in the Republican Party yet? Like, you're going to become a precinct committee man? And then sometimes they still say, like, whoa, what are you talking about? Like, no, I'm a Democrat. It's just part of their identity, right? And I'm just like, oh, you are going to pursue policies and vote for Democrats and ruin Arizona and just do the same thing, right? And then you'll try to run to Wyoming or Texas, but pretty soon you run out of states. Like, I really think Arizona is the bellwether for the country, and so goes Arizona, so goes the country. And this is the question: can we contain California, and actually be independent, or is it all this liberal blob, and we're just going to get subsumed?
If you are elected senator, and let's say that the Republican Party is able to retake the Senate in 2022, would you support Mitch McConnell being in a leadership role, or would you back someone else, and who might that be?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see who's running, right? I don't know who's running. I will say I have a hard time seeing myself voting for Mitch McConnell. He doesn't want to legislate. He doesn't want to pursue an affirmative agenda. And I'm interested in supporting, I'm interested in running for office so that we can implement that Trump 2016 agenda, right? A strong, healthy middle class economy, reset our foreign policy instead of trying to democratize the Middle East. Like, let's get serious about China, right? Law and order starts with the southern border wall, but also supporting first responders, supporting our police, the law and order culture. That's the Trump 2016 agenda. That's what we need. My concern is that Mitch McConnell does not want to legislate in support of that agenda. And I will only vote for someone, for a leader who is serious about doing that. So I'll meet with him. I'll chat with him. I'll chat with anyone else who's running, right? And I'm not sure who else would run. One of the reasons why I'm running for office is because I think we need a new generation of leadership in general.
Like Masters, if you're here in Arizona, he will, if you are a Republican, he will be on the primary ballot in the coming months. So thank you so much for your time today. If you want more information about more Western Journal content, be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and also head on over to westernjournal.com. I'm Cameron Arcand, signing off.